allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Township Planning Board has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of the meeting by promptly posting in the municipal complex an announcement giving the time, date, location, and the agenda of this meeting, mailing such announcement to the Home News and Tribune, and filing a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk. Mr. De Palma?
Here.
Mr. Renner?
Here.
Mr. Lauer?
Here.
Mr. Monackis?
Here.
Here. Mr. Schmitz?
Here.
Mr. Lenning?
Here.
Mr. Ping?
Here.
Mr. Petty?
Here.
Ms. Shaw? Here. Chairwoman Cannon?
Here, although I'm not sure. Is this?
Ms. Sawant?
Yes. I wonder
Ms.
why.
Carey?
Here.
First order of business, I'd like to take a nomination for chairperson.
I'd like to nominate Barbara Cannon.
A second.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Monackis?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Thank you all. Okay, am I taking over now?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, nominations for vice chairperson.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Marucci.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Monackis?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Okay, secretary.
I'll nominate Casey Lenning. I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Monackis?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. King? Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr.
Mr.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, vice secretary. Do we actually vote on this?
Yeah.
It's Dawn, yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
she
it's
can also
Dawn.
sign.
Okay, vice secretary, we have nomination.
Nominate Don Bobley. Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Monackis?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, we have the appointment of the board attorney. Is there any discussion? Okay, so do we do a nomination and?
Yep,
the same-
nomination and vote.
Nomination, okay, do we have a nomination for board attorney? I nominate Kelly.
Second.
Just for the record, that's Kelly Carey and the law
Kelly
firm
Carey.
T. Francesco Bateman.
Oh, I have to do the whole thing, okay.
Thank you.
All right, moved and seconded.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Monackis?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, the consultants, 2020 consultant planners, Mark Remsa, environmental resolutions. Can we do them all as a group? Yeah.
Yes.
Mark Remsa, environmental resolutions, CME Associates, and Harbor Consultants. Do I have a motion?
I move it.
Moved and seconded, roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Monackis?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, 2020 consultant engineers, Delaware Raritan Engineering, environmental resolutions, CME Associates, Harbor Consultants, and traffic planning and design. Do you have a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Marucci. Second. Seconded by Mr. Lenning. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Monackis?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, 2020 consultant traffic engineers, environmental resolutions, CME Associates, NAC Consulting Group, Brightview Engineering, and Nigerian Associates. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, roll call?
Mr. DePalma?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Lomakis?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenny?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, and the Arbors, 2020 Arbors for 60 days only, Gary Lavallo.
I'll move it.
Okay, moved by Mr. Marucci, Mr. Lamarcus. Second? Seconded by Mr. Lenny.
Mr. DePalma?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Lomakis?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenny?
Yes.
Mr. Payne? Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, then we have some committees. On minor subdivision, do I just name these or do we vote on them? Okay. Minor subdivision, we have Ernie Schmidt, the mayor, and Eddie Lauer. On master plan, myself, Mr. Schmidt, and the mayor. And open space is Mr. Schmidt and Casey. Or, no, you didn't want to be on it, right, Ernie? Did you want to not be on open space?
Yeah, I'm pass.
You're retiring from that, okay. Casey's on open space. And then the LDO committee is myself, Dean Marucci, and the mayor. Okay. Now, where's my agenda?
Rules and regulations.
Okay, approval of 2020 rules and regulations. So we had a couple of,
Yeah,
Casey wants to talk about this.
with your packet, there's one page, it says for discussion purposes only, proposed additions to the rules of the planning board. Casey had suggested one, which is the first one, limitation on testimony. And then there were a couple other things, especially since we have tonight without any applications, that I thought were worth discussing, things that have been coming up in other boards and things that we should, happen here that we should maybe just talk about. So the first one is limitation on testimony. The suggestion from Casey, which I think was a good one, and as you know, we had some fairly well-attended applications this year, and it's challenging to get everybody their opportunity to be heard, to not have it be repetitive, but to actually get through everything and to get to the substance of the issues and the substance of the questions. So the suggestion was to allow the board the flexibility to limit the public comment per person to 5 minutes if we feel that's necessary in any given application. I don't want to put it in as always the rule, because there are situations where maybe they're asking questions or really cross-examining a witness, they actually have some expertise, and it may take longer than 5 minutes, and the board may really want to hear all the new things that are going to come out. They're going to take more than 5 minutes. But if we get a situation where every single person is coming up saying exactly the same thing over and over again, at that point, maybe, in order just to get the hearings completed, the board may think it's necessary to institute a 5-minute limit per person. So that's the first one that's here.
Now, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
If it's a situation where there's an attorney representing a group, and somebody in the group is speaking and they're being repetitive, and we stop them after 5 minutes and they refuse to stop, and number one, what course of action do we take to get them to stop? And number two, if we do, ramifications by making them stop?
When they're represented by an attorney, the attorney should be doing the talking. In the last application that was here, the attorney represented the homeowners association, but did not represent the individual applicants. So we had the attorney come up and make nice, concise statements, but then we did need to let the actual homeowners come forward because they weren't technically being represented by that attorney. So we had both situations. Certainly, if you are permitted to have an attorney and to cross-examine the witnesses. So they're really, and we try to hold people to this, but they also have difficulty understanding this part as well. When they come up after every witness, they're supposed to be asking questions, and that's really more your cross-examination, to make sure you're eliciting all the information you need and getting all the testimony out there. At the end, in the comment period, would really be when we would think about limiting them to 5 minutes if they're getting repetitive. So the cross-examination, if it's truly cross-examination, you really have to continue to let that happen if it's legitimate and if it's, continuing along the basis of the evidence that was presented and what the board needs to pull out to hear. But it's at the end when the comments come, when everybody says exactly the same thing, and, and says the same thing 25 times, and you want to let everybody get their chance. That's really, I think, the more appropriate time to start to limit.
So the question is, when do we invoke it? That's the question, you know.
And how do we enforce it if somebody
Yeah.
refuses to stop?
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah,
It's difficult. It's
enforce
difficult, yeah.
And then chanting, right? Chanting's not permitted, right?
Well, we saw that.
Right. Right.
I think Barbara did a good job at that, the first round or two with that, and it was some of the same people that came out. They didn't quite get it. And Barbara made, I think, a point at the very last hearing to really set it out in the beginning, and I think they were much better, and they did seem to understand it. You care, you like that people come out and care about their town and are passionate about what the board's doing.
Right.
But, it's, there's that,
What does the current section cite?
It doesn't-
About a modification.
the current section doesn't say anything about limiting anything.
So this is an added section.
So this to be added, I don't want to change what's there, because what's there just says what the process is, who goes when. What I want to do is to give the board under our rules the ability to add in some rules and to have some flexibility in the way we do it, depending on the situation.
And we also, I believe there's a clause that calls out an hour for an application for discussion.
Yeah.
So we already have something in place that could limit, and then it could be a carryover to the next
Right,
meeting.
yeah.
It's on a limited case that we get a lot of folks that come
Yeah,
out.
because normally you don't have that.
Typically, you
have a
don't
handful of
have
people.
that much interaction.
The last
on-
one.
On sensitive ones, yeah.
Right, right.
So it's not a bad thing to have it in the rules before before the situation comes up again.
Right.
Just to reinforce that the board has the authority to make these determinations as needed. So I thank Casey for bringing it up, and I think
Yeah, no, that
if the
was a
board's
good idea.
interested, we could have that added into the rules. We do go over we do routinely re-adopt our rules at this meeting every year. They basically are good for 1 year when you adopt them. So this is something we do anyway, and since there are no applicants here, I thought it was a good time to have some of these discussions. Do you want to go through all of them and then sort of vote at the end on what we want to
Yeah.
adopt?
Sure, we do that.
The next one is on electronic evidence, and the applicants, and we can change the wording here, this is really to start the discussion, and I want Dawn to weigh in on this because she has to deal with it. Oh, as you know, over the last year now, we've had these screens, and applicants can provide electronically the exhibits that they're going to be bringing in. So things that are in addition to what was in the packet and what was in the application, they can now bring in and put on the screens, which is great because the audience can see it. It's so much easier. But they don't always bring it, and we want to make sure that we really are encouraging them to bring that. But then also for record-keeping purposes, we want to make sure that they eventually do give Dawn at least a small paper copy, because we need to keep track of what's marked in evidence. So I don't want the only copy they bring to be the electronic copy, and then we have no way to mark it as Exhibit 6 and to retain it for future purposes in case there's litigation or questions that come up later. So while we're updating the rules, and I'm not tied to the wording here necessarily, but I'd like to include that the applicants may and really encourage them to provide electronic versions of the plans and maps and photos, and that they need to also provide a paper copy so that we can mark that. We were discussing this before the meeting, and we thought that perhaps this provision should also go on our application materials, really to make sure that the applicants know this is available and really encourage them. Dawn wouldn't be required to, but she's offered her services. If we have, the little grandma applicant who's not tech savvy, if she brings her in a paper copy of something, she can even scan it and put it on the board for her. So we'd really like to try to encourage, without scaring people, to bring in the electronic versions because it makes it much easier.
I think my only comment relative to this would be the electronic version would not be the formal document. Everything that's formal that's on file is the hard copy, because folks have the ability to modify a document and select the memory and then come back and show you something that varies from what's documented a hard copy. So it would be for reference only. It would not be.
Yeah, it would be, I think,
file
to facilitate the public, too, to better understand what
Yeah.
we're talking about and have a reference that they can point to. So, yeah, it's more for just
It
informational.
would be for reference only. So how you stipulate it would only be for reference only. It would not be a record document.
Right.
That's a good suggestion. I would add that into the end, that the hard copy is for considered by the board to be the official copy. Okay, and then something that's been coming up in we have to take continuing legal education classes, and I go to most of the land use ones, and there's been a lot of talk and complaints, actually, by attorneys who appear before the boards regarding all that's available now as far as electronic equipment and your smartphones and who's doing what online and who's talking to each other without them knowing it as the application's going on. And there's really been concerns raised often over the last year or two, I've heard. So I thought it'd probably time for us to at least address the fact that in our rules that the board has been issued tablets for its members, and the members are supposed to use them at home and bring them to meetings, and that tablets do provide access to the planning board agenda, the applicant's files, including the maps and the plans and the professional reports. And that's the purpose of having the tablet in front of you. I think it's good to have it in the rules so that the applicants, before they come in, if they read the rules, at least know to expect and to not be put off by the fact that there's, a tablet sitting in front of most of the members. So I
believe
think
they have enough tablets.
we don't have enough tablets. And so that's the first one here, and then I say or. And I don't necessarily, I think the first one is enough. But I wanted to bring up the topics, because there have been some instances in cases in other towns where the applicant felt like the board was doing its own independent research during the hearing, and they had to deal with that issue during the hearing. So really just for our own discussion, and I see here, even tonight, not that many people have their tablets out, but we do have our smartphones, and I know every once in a while, my kid will call me, I'm stuck at the high school, who's picking me up? And, you might have to respond to that, call dad, I'm working. But to the extent that you have ever are inclined to maybe pull up Google Maps and try to look at a street view of a property while you're sitting up here, I would encourage you to not do it, one, or if you really have to do it, to make sure that you let everybody know, that you give the applicant's attorney the ability to see the picture that you're looking at. It could be an old view, the street number could be off, you could be looking at something that's incorrect. And it's not appropriate, it's not fair for you to be having independent information that they don't know about and that they can't correct. So I haven't seen anybody here do it, and before it happens, I just wanted to have the one discussion on it. And like I said, I don't think this needs to go into the rules, but I've heard it so many times in the last couple, meetings I've gone to, that I just thought to bring it up now to preempt anything. Does anybody have any questions? Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Question about that.
Yeah.
Would that include the township's GIS? Because the township's GIS is the whole town as it is whenever it was obtained.
So the townships, on the website, you can pull up the map of everything.
Of the township, yeah.
If you're using it during a meeting and because it's helping you and they're not giving you the information you need, mention it. Say, I wasn't sure what you were talking about, so I pulled up the town GIS to make sure I understood. Because probably everybody around you didn't understand either then, and you should really give them the opportunity to clarify.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and you can say, I have this, so if you're doing that, you have to let us know. Chances are, if you're confused and you needed more information, everybody else did too.
Well, sometimes I look at the GIS to get a better idea of what part of town it is versus, the applicant's information.
If you did that at home while you were reviewing the application, I mean, you're expected to have certain knowledge of, or drive to it, all that, right? You're expected to have certain knowledge,
Right.
that's why you're on the board, because you live in town. So that, if you could drive by the property, you could look it up on Google beforehand to just get I'm not worried about that.
Right.
It's more that if you're up here and you're looking at it to contradict something they're saying during the hearing, you really need to give them the ability to then correct that or understand it, or for them to tell you what more information you need to have. Okay, does that make sense?
To state, I'm looking at the site now.
Now, yeah. I was confused, or I had a question, I'm looking at it now, can you tell me if this is correct? Is this still a correct representation? Is there something else I need to know?
The intended use of the tablet during a hearing is to review application files, right?
Right.
Because we don't get everything printed out, right? So that's the driver, that's the why we have it in place. So I'm in agreement with that remaining in place and trying to put some language. Smartphones, typical meetings, they're a no-no. They're off all devices. Now, I know we need to keep them on for personal use. I turn mine off every time I step into a meeting. It's professional courtesy. So for me, no smartphones. That would be my view. It would not be applicable. There'd be no reason for anyone to get onto a smartphone while we're here behind the bench. the device, I can see for application documents, because I don't get all the hard copies, they're all online.
Absolutely.
So I
that's what
bring
it's for.
whatever limited material I have the day
Right.
of the hearing.
Absolutely what it's for. It's rather than carrying the packet. That's exact, this is your packet. Yep. Right. Makes sense.
Anybody else have any comments?
So my suggestion would be that the first three on here, and the second one on the electronic evidence, I'm going to modify a little bit and add that the hard copy is considered by the board to be the official copy, not the electronic version.
Right, the reference only.
Right. And then we're going to also work on adding something to that, like that into the application materials when they get sent out to people. So if the board is in agreement and they'd like to, if you'd like more discussion, that's fine too. But if you're in agreement, we can vote on those top three. I would not suggest the bottom one. I think that that was an alternative to the, but I would suggest we add the top three into the rules that, when we were adopting the rules this evening.
I have a comment. Circling back to the smartphones, yes, I don't agree with having them turned off completely. I agree with not having us texting up here, having them on in case there is an emergency, and then take it off days automatically.
Yeah.
All right, so your phones can be on, but take it off days. If you get a phone call that you feel is pertinent, then you need to take it.
Right.
So-
Right.
Sounds good.
Right, you can, and I mean, if there really was an emergency, any board member can ask for an adjournment during the hearing, for a 5-minute recess. If something's, your volunteers or something's going on and you need to address it, let us know.
All right, so is everybody okay with voting on the rules of the planning board as Kelly has described them? Okay, so can I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Okay. So moved by Mr. Marucci, seconded by,
Mr. Pink.
Mr. DePalma?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lennon? Yes. Mr. Pink? Chairman Bennett?
yes. Okay, we have on the regular agenda resolutions, do we do these individually?
Yeah, these are actual, yeah, you shouldn't vote on them.
Okay,
These
because
are
some
applications,
people
yeah.
Okay, so these are resolutions for applications that have been heard previously, and so this is part of the final.
Yeah,
Final to them. Okay, 09-19P, Mount Hebron Cemetery preliminary and final site plan with waivers.
this was an approval.
Can I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Okay, moved by Mr. Schmidt. Second?
Second.
Okay, second by
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Pink? Chairman Bennett?
Yeah. Okay, so only people that were here can vote on these, right?
Right.
Okay, application 18-19P, K. Havnaven, Oakwood at Old Bridge, minor subdivision with C variances.
What was it?
I'll move it.
I don't know if you were here.
I don't think I will.
This was the park subdivision,
Yeah.
yeah, for whoever's trying to remember.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lennon?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Chairman Bennett?
Yes. Resolution 19-19P, Maria Marquez, minor subdivision with C variances.
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Schmidt. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Rucci. Roll call.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lennon?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Chairman Bennett?
Yes. 27-10P, Ronald Gasudo, minor subdivision. No motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Lenning, second.
second it.
Mr. Pink?
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lennon?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Chairman Bennett?
Yes.
The RD, some of you, if you have an earlier version of the agenda, the RD management, I'm going to take my time and make sure we get that right. That will be on the next agenda.
Oh, okay. And the escrow ones, can we do all together?
You do those together.
Okay, the escrow deficiency resolution 4-19P, Lisa Real, $1,500. 18-19P, K. Havnavian at Oakwood, $1,250, which has been paid. And 27-19P, Ronald Gasoldo, $1,250, which has also been paid. So can I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Marucci,
I'll second.
seconded by Mr. Lenning.
Mr.
Roll call.
DePalma?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, we have the minutes for October 29th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it. I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Lenning. Roll call, please.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and then the minutes for December 3rd, 2019.
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Marucci, seconded
Second.
by Mr. Schmidt. Roll call, please.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Abstain.
Mr. Marucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Chairman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, then before we call on our planner, I just want to congratulate Mr. Renner on his promotion. And to welcome our new council representative, Eric DePalma, who is a new councilman who lives in a good section of town. A neighbor of mine. And then we have two new members, two new alternates, and alternate number 1 is Joseph Petty, and alternate number 2 is Neha Shah, and we welcome you to the board.
Welcome.
Okay, Bina, you're on.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. At the next planning board meeting, you will see a revised version of the master plan re-examination report, and I just thought that this meeting, we didn't have an application, and it is a good time to fill you in with what's coming up. The need for having a master plan re-examination amended comes from the fact that the governor passed a bill in November of 2019 related to electric charging stations for vehicles. And this bill advances actually the state's environmental goals of improving air quality and increasing sustainability. And what that does is it requires municipalities, when they do their master plan re-examination report, to include locations where there are existing and proposed electric charging stations, especially in the circulation plan element of the master plan or the transportation element of the master plan. I have already worked on the language, and I have sent it to our board attorney to review it. So the next time I will come and present the re-exam. But what that will do is, in fact, when the bill came in at around the same time, our township engineer and I were talking about using municipal parking lots for electric charging. Actually, NJDEP runs a program. It's called Pay Dollars to Plug, and wherein they provide funding if you want to put in electric charging stations on parking lots. At the same time, I was meeting with a couple of developers, non-residential developments that are going to come in front of the planning board, and especially the ones that are located on Route 9 or 18. I think they offer good location for potential charging stations. We thought we could have an ordinance that encourages electric charging stations on municipal as well as commercial lots which are along highly traversed routes. So there are a couple of sites we are considering, but that will come as a part of the ordinance. But right now, in order to write an ordinance, we need the master plan to have those directions. So the first step, I'll come in front of you with a master plan re-exam update, and then later on come in with an ordinance and take it to the council. So that's what you will see at the next meeting. The planning department has been working diligently on the signage ordinance. I know you have been hearing it for quite some time, but believe me or not, it's a Herculean task. We want to make sure that we cover every type of sign. We cover it for each zone. So we have been working on that, and hopefully by the middle of this year, we will come in with a draft. Before even it comes in front of you, I would like the attorneys to review it thoroughly, because signage ordinances are trickier than the usual ordinances, because there's freedom of speech and constitutional rights involved. So we have to be very careful when we craft the language. But we will be in front of you with that. There are a couple of ordinances which will come in front of you again. One has to do with gas stations or 24-hour facilities being close to residential properties, and I have been researching and preparing an ordinance, so you will see a draft or a presentation on that end as well. So there's a lot that will come in the next few months, and you'll review it. I just wanted to take this as an opportunity to give you a heads up or as to what to expect in the coming future. Thank you.
Are there any other areas that you're looking at in terms of,
See, the overall plan would be to revisit the entire LDO, and I think we really need to look at it. There are a lot of inconsistencies, and I think looking at it piecemeal is not going to really solve, because when we fix one zone, we often find that there is some of the other connection somewhere else. So once we are done with these important ones, the task is to look at the entire LDO and the entire township. So I think that will cover everything. But there are no specific areas. If the planning board has any suggestions, please feel free to reach out to us.
does anybody have anything they would like to highlight at this point? I have my favorite one about the cars, used cars and car demolishing and the different, we seem to have a lot of, I know I've talked to Vina about this before, but in certain areas of town, we have a proliferation of these kind of activities and facilities, and I think that we need to look at the ordinances to see where they're placed, which zones they're in, and how they're spelled out, because it just seems like it's growing by leaps and bounds. And
In fact, after we spoke a couple of times, I had gone and looked at those properties. Unfortunately, some, like the ones that are existing, are pre-existing.
Right.
But what we did is, when we went in and fixed the EDO, along with which we fixed the conditional use section of the ordinance, that's when we added a requirement that says that you cannot have another auto dealership or a car dealership within X amount of feet of an existing one. So that kind of limits. In fact, we mapped to see there isn't any wiggle room. So we wouldn't be encouraging more of those uses along. I know specifically Route 34 has a lot of them, and I don't think, unless somebody goes to the zoning board and asks for an approval, there is room for a new one to come in. But whatever is currently in there is pre-existing, and we will have to deal with it when they come in for an expansion or anything to do with the site plan. They would be naturally kicked to the zoning board with one of the condition not being met, and the zoning board would have to review those.
Is there a limitation in place now as to how many feet one can do another?
Yes. Well, the last time we changed the EDO ordinance and the conditional use, we have, I believe it is 1,000 square feet, but I might be wrong. Either 1,000 or 2,000 square feet. You cannot have another similar use within X amount of
I
feet.
believe it was 1,000. 'cause you made
1,000, I
circles.
think it is 1,000, yes.
But there are a couple of parcels that are outside that realm, and people have come in and asked about putting a car dealership of some sort. So, so we have to try to look at that. There are some small little pockets in there.
I will certainly look into it, because the next, like I said, I'm looking at 24-hour facilities.
Yeah.
And at that time, I will be amending the conditional use section, because that's where one of the condition has to be that you cannot have another 24-hour facility within X amount of feet. But that, at that time, I will definitely go and check. I still have all the maps, so I'm a little surprised that there is any property that is left, because I thought I covered everything, but I will go back and check.
Yeah, and also, it would be good for Steve, because he sort of knows what's out there in terms of what people are looking to do in the town, to see if there's areas that we could be, you know, for more desirable things, more user-friendly. I mean, maybe we need to do something with our zoning to make it more friendly or more
There are
welcoming.
There are some parts in town. I know something's coming up now, it's going to be coming in front of us regarding a building, and I think this building, the height requirement needs to be there for this particular building. So possibly looking at and reviewing the height requirement in certain areas, of course, you know, not affecting houses and those areas. Other things is on the other things that are current was that I believe, and I don't know if it's the plan, but we could take this offline. We did put signage up on Route 9 on the southbound side by the Wawa, no truck parking in the bus lane, because that's what we were looking at as far as the last applicant. There was none on the other side of the road. I just really noticed as I was driving around town. But and it kind of makes a good point. There are some areas in town we need to look at to be proactive going forward.
Sure.
And also, like, I know the warehousing is becoming, but that's more confined to like the Waterworks Road area.
Yes.
But I don't know if there's other areas that are zoned for that.
There are other areas in town that are zoned in the EDO zone that warehousing will be permitted. It is permitted.
And I guess just to take into consideration again, if there's any residential housing in the area that, you know, that's taken into account, because I know when that one in that existing warehouse that's been built, wasn't there issues with Poor Farm Road about the trucks coming down and then creating issues for
Correct, yes.
residents in that development there?
That's
So-
been corrected, but that was an issue.
Yeah, so I think we just have to make sure we're cognizant of dealing with that, so we don't have to sort of go back and, you know.
I think when we did the EDO ordinance, the last one, there were stringent buffer requirements from residential properties. So I think we covered it, but we will definitely take a look into it again.
Yeah, because I think that just the type of development we're getting, you know, in the last few years is a lot different than we used to get. So I just think, you know, like with the 24-hour, I mean, the gas stations before used to be these little, you know, little ones that were open like 9 to 5 and you know, didn't have the convenience stores and all that. So there obviously was a different way of zoning those or looking at how those, where those were placed, and now they seem to be the wave of the future, or not in the future, they're here. But anyway, anybody else have any comments or things that they would like Vina to check out, since we have her here? Okay. And you look at the zoning, what comes up on the zoning meetings and stuff, they publish that thing at the end of the year of all their.
Yes, I do.
So that I know some things have
Yes.
changed as a result of a number of people coming in for variances for like square footage.
Correct.
Including the basement and not including
Yes.
that, so.
Right.
that's
I think
something you
the zoning
want.
report will be completed soon. So before it goes, it's circulated, I'll be looking at it and reviewing it to see if anything needs to be changed in the LDO.
That does bring up another point. I think we really have to take a real in-depth look at the 527 and the Spring Valley Road area, because it becomes a contentious point where people want to build in that area. There's that parcel that's next to Veterans Park, and so I think we could take it all fun, but we have to look further into that. I had somebody call me and wanted to put like 1,000 trailers there. I'm like,
Wow.
can't do that. I mean, I shouldn't say you can't do that, but it wasn't conducive to the area, so.
Sure.
Anybody else have any comments or suggestions or
Oh,
whatever?
one more.
Yes.
Just reviewing the EDLs and possibly expanding them a little further on some of the roads, taking them a little further down, the 34 section, the 527 section, and maybe some other little sections in
Okay.
town.
Okay. All right, so if there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Moved by Mr. Marucci and seconded by Mr. Pink. Okay. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you next month.